right? Oh, by the way, I told you about the departmental procedures and guidelines, which was a state inspector helped me put this together. Generic. It says, talks about no one, doesn't say, hey, specifically call this guy to do this, specifically call this guy to repair it, it's just generic. In layman's terms, the city official is looking for a qualified, just read it, simple. It's Department of Procedures and Guidelines. You guys have it all the time. When you have some crazy thing about the solar thing, what do you guys write? You know, what we're kind of looking for related to this solar thing is blah, 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 blah. That's how we read it, that's our interpretation, so you guys give everybody a cheat sheet. Here's a cheat sheet. Oh, by the way, when you see these tags on a fire escape, what's it say? Number one thing, when you guys leave a tag on there, contact fire official. What's the second thing it says? Have fire escape inspector. What's the third thing it says? Service and load test. Checklist items. Okay? This is what a tag looks like in Seattle. 17 inches wide, 11 inches high. On plastic, 1/8 plastic, and you got to use staples or so that it basically. So a lot of times, this is what it looks like. Well, and this is what it looks like attached, permanently attached to the fire escape. If it's red, what's it mean? It means you guys are already dealing with it because you're dealing with fire protection issues. Meaning is it doesn't have scaffolding, doesn't have a fire watch, because it's out of service. So a man running down an alleyway fighting a fire in Seattle, and he looks up and he sees red, what's he going to do? He's going to run back. He has justification to run back, waits 3 to 5 minutes to get a ladder, wait for the 7-story truck to come in, because that's what told him to do that. And all your pre-plans, and if you guys have trucks that go like Portland, they have that whole electronic thing that when you go, it already tells you everything wrong with that building in that area.
Not yet.
Well, they have, I don't know what the name of the system is, but they have that. So otherwise, sometimes the captain going there, what do they have, a sheet on the, because they do pre-plans on buildings. When they go to do a pre-plans, what's one of the things they need to find out about the fire escape?
So in this situation, Cisco, if that building's occupied, would they not be required to create that scaffold temp that you were talking about?
Oh, there's rights and wrongs and why it doesn't, yes. So what should be done is yes. What is being done is really up to you and what politically you can do.
Yeah.
I've just told you about scaffolding as an alternative because it helps you say, I don't want to shut you guys are here to shut buildings down? Knock little old ladies into the street? But if they don't have the 20 grand that they need, right, what do you do? Because that's what they're going to tell. The reason I'm doing nothing is because I don't have the money. So what do you guys order?
We've got to have an alternative.
Right, so you order a fire watch if you feel that that's enough. And what's a fire watch do?
But how's the fire watch going to help you?
From the previous activities that I've seen, the fire watch is there to make sure nobody goes to the fire escape. So the fire escape basically gets all blocked off. There's a fire watch 24/7. And in case there's a fire, the fire watch will say, everybody already knows because we've already blocked the fire escape, everybody. And the fire watch is there because fires can't start when there's a fire watch. So that's the main reason for the fire watch is basically they'll smell it before it gets going and they'll evacuate the building.
Be able to mitigate it obviously
right.
quickly.
And make sure everybody knows that the fire escape is no longer an option during that 3 to 5 days that the guy's there in the fire watch. But then you can emergency, you know how, you know what you can do to a fire escape? I can make it functional before I certify it. I got rust in the tread. I can leave that tread there, that rust there, and I just put a brand new bolt. What happens to that tread? Is it functional now? So don't forget, fire escapes that need 20 grand of work can be fixed with 5 grand. Functional. Not certifiable. Make it functional. Otherwise, they don't want to go for the $5,000 deal. What do they have? $1,000 a month gets them what? Scaffolding. So you mothball the thing. So yeah, you're right. Let's mothball this thing. Everybody, scaffolding is your alternative. Until the scaffolding goes up, I have a fire watch here, and you check on it every day until it meets your standard. Got it? But this is what the tags look like. Here's the tags that we designed, basically that you can print out in your office. Laminate yourself. You'll never put up a white one, by the way. Third party only. Got it? But you put up yellows and reds. We put up yellows and reds because after an inspection we're supposed to leave a tag, yellow or red. But during your pre-plans, during your walk-arounds, every time you guys step on a fire escape, what do? And you have 2 color tags in your car. You haven't changed your routine at all. But you were inspecting this building and you just noticed the fire escape you didn't even know existed on the back of this one. What's the only thing you leave behind? You're either going to leave yellow or red. If you get there, there's no treads dangling, There's no life safety issues that you can visibly see with your minimum knowledge. What color do you leave?
Yellow.
Yellow. Just stick a yellow on it. Says you know, get the process started of what? Turning it into a white.
There's no white, is that what you're saying?
You can never put up a white.
No, I'm saying there is no white present that verifies the.
Correct.
Okay.
So you tag. So Seattle throws out yellows.
Okay.
So now you get there, and there is a dangling tread. What do you put on it?
Right.
And you're going to be there anyway, so it's not, you leave a red and you go away like, oh my God, there's a dangling tread, what's the address, find the owner, but you've left the red. So are we certifying fire escapes, or are we starting a tagging program, very similar to our fire hydrant program that we have? Yeah, just we need, for the safety of our firemen, we just need to give them some signal at the location as to what's there, whether or not they can use it. So 7 to 10 feet off the ground. What's the key? Who inspected it? And also, when the next date is. So you'd have to come back to your file and open up the file and say, is it out of date? You remember when you can confidently get into an elevator and look at that beautiful tag on the side and say, oh, this is a great elevator because it's good till 2015. Now what do you read? The same tag. It's in the manager's office, right?
Yeah.
A lot of them are saying for a copy of the certificate, where do they put it? Yeah. A lot throughout the country. They've taken it from the, because they have to post it right there, and you'll see a sign there that says the certificate is in the manager's office. Why? Well, no, they're in case.
Sure.
But what happens is, if I'm getting into
lapses.
an elevator and I pay rent in this building, and it says 2013, and it's already 2014. What do I do? Hey, I grab my check. I'm not paying the rent this week. And so they started saying, even if there's a lapse in time, they'd rather not have a check. So what happens when I pay rent in this building, and I walk by this fire escape all the time, and I look up and it says 2012. What do? So what's the purpose of these tags? Who's it for? Everybody. Fire official, building official, health department, housing department, tenants. Because what do they see clearly? When it's due. Oh, you want to bring this up? Oh, there's some other people out there that just totally skirt the law. These people think they're invincible.
Firefighters.
They don't listen to nobody.
That looks an awful lot like a training
My
tower.
mom always says,
It's an awful lot like ours.
never point your finger at anybody, because you got one finger pointing at somebody, but what do you have?
3 more pointing back at you.
So I was called to inspect this training center.
Yeah.
And you guys have these, so get all your training facilities immediately inspected, because everyone has these fire escapes on the outside. And when I did my little tappy, look what happened. And this is inside your building, because you guys throw hay and all kinds of water in there to create the smoke, right? And guess what happens here? Look at that, ready to go.
We have 2 escapes inside.
So when I started doing my little pounding, look at the rust on that gusset holding the platform. Where everybody goes out and goes, kind of hanging out. They say, oh my God, that was a tough test. And like,
Not as tough as the next one.
got it? Look at all the treads I banged. Look, that was my hammer test. They went up and down this every day until I shut it down. Hand grenades out there, guys. And I'm just going to go right into the book. We're going to end it. I mean, I usually do a lot more.
We'll have you back. I just need to.
So this is a fire escape that I took out for a school. And what I did is I saved it so I can use it. And whenever I go to a show, I like to bring Rusty. And it's a school that was that used to feed a recess yard, a one-story. But I kept it and I show. You know what I'm saying? It used to be 4 feet, so I kept it. What used to be in the ground. And then at the very top, there's another piece that goes up to the top. But I basically showed all the lead. So this is what it looked like. This is what it became. Okay? So let's talk about it here. Let's go to the book, and I'm going to answer all your questions, because this is a shortened class. So let me tell you, if you had a question, there's already an answer out there, and some other city official or building official is already doing it. So I'm not recommending this. This is already being done somewhere. It's only a matter of whether or not, what's your verification process, okay? So, starting on the front page, can I ever overload a fire escape in my entire life? Can anybody ever overload? So can anybody blame a party, drinking beer, having a party on a fire escape? That's why it collapsed. It's always because it was not maintained, right? So we know that, right? You know that you have what's called the Departmental Procedures and Guidelines. So this is downloadable. If you go on nationalfireescapeassociation.org, this is downloadable, PDF or Word, and you can then copy and paste your website in here, put your information, eliminate anything else you want, or if not, go there and copy and paste these wordings and drop it into your letterhead. Okay? We talked about OSHA, right? The OSHA card, how powerful is that? What number is it? Did everybody write down what OSHA code you're breaking? 1910.37.
37,
right? And you guys know that EPA stepped in 2010 and says what about fire escapes with lead on them? You got to have a renovator's license to scrape and paint it, but can you weld on a fire escape ever anymore?
No.
So if you see anybody welding on a fire escape, what law are they breaking? EPA. Right? Because of lead. Can you weld on lead? Can you burn any lead, anything that has lead? Okay? You have confidence tests. These are the smaller versions of the confidence, but you go to Seattle.gov, you go to Reg 4, Regulation 4 in LA, you go to Portland, Oregon, you go to Lowell, you go to Lowell, Massachusetts, you go to Jersey City, you go to what are they? These are nothing more than just industry standard yes, no questions. Anybody gets offended? That's your first signal of what?
Okay.
As soon as they put their hand on their gun, what do? You say, hold on, I got something to counter that. I don't know what you're reaching for, but mine's more, you know, rock, paper, scissors, right? What's the one that, the catch-all? Is there a,
I don't know if there's a catch-all, but
so that's the one you got.
load test.
Load test just scares the hell out of everybody, right? And by the way, the 1 year annual is in here. I think you guys should do that. That just basically, like you say, if you're doing the annual checks you're turning the screw on every hydrant, you got to turn the screw on every fire escape because it's your second means of egress. Can anybody occupy any building without two means of egress? Buy it, sell it, rent it. Put people back in. Right? Work on it. Work in it. Right? So your Utah code says that you must maintain every space safe. You have to have a safe space, whether residential, commercial, city place. Everything must be a safe working space, right? That means it has to have what in order for it to be open, for the lights to turn on. So you need to go find that code. So that's one more code that's in the state that has nothing to do with fire or building, is that every structure must be maintained in a safe manner. Right? So if you walk into a building and the fire escape is pristine, it's 100%. But the front stairs are all rotted out because of termites, what do? Let it stay open? Right? So here's examinations. Guys, everybody has a digital camera today. You will not go out and verify a fire escape. If you read the confidence test, it says you must attach a report. This is not the report. This is the evaluation that requests with it what? A report. When it passes, what's the only thing you're going to get? Just the evaluation. Because when it becomes all yeses, guess what you get? This with whose seal over here. But when it fails, what's it say? It says right here, for the guy, the engineer, all defects and violations must be identified on the fire escape with spray paint of a contrasting color. So guess what they want the engineer or the architect to do for the owner and for you, in case you want to go there? They want to finger paint it for dummies, right? So you don't have to go looking for it, he's going to already paint it, or in a detailed drawing. You know what I'm saying? Which one makes more money for the architects and the engineers? Drawing. So what do you guys say to the owner and to the architects and engineers? Do you need drawings or you just want the... So when we inspect fire escapes, we mark them yellow, red, or white. Yellow for standard things that need repair. Red for what, guys?
Life safety.
Life safety concerns. White for what? Cement connections and other connections into the building. So what's everybody get? Photographs back. So if you got one of these reports from any engineer, and he doesn't have to put it in a pretty little report like this, he can put it in 4 per page, 6 per page, right? Because every PC lets you print out your photos how? 4 per page, PDF it, and do what? Send it to you electronically or in hard copy.
I'm looking for that platform so that we might be able to
Got it? Let's keep going. I'll open up the questions. Every building over 35,000 cubic must have a design professional, what's it called? It's a, there's a terminology for these, construction control document, right? Anything, is that the code here? Anything over 35? That's what I called. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm gonna have them change this.
That's okay, we're done.
Oh, okay.
So you got this one called a construction control document. So in some structures that are monstrous,
What's that?
is there a question whether or not there's going to be engineer oversight? Preliminary and final. So we created this document to basically say that in some bigger structures, it starts out with an engineer or an architect of record. What's this over here? This is the part. This is how to fix a fire escape. Every tread, every platform, every support. And what's the main activity? Take the bolt out, remove all the rust, spray paint the connection, inject it with silicone, put a brand new bolt in it, tighten, and goop it up. So it's all about encapsulation. So if you goop up a connection with 35 to 50 year silicone, and then you paint the structure following EPA guidelines, 10 years from now, what's the only thing that owner's going to do with that building? If he ignores it for 10 years?
They'll be fine because it's still captured.
He's just going to be painting it. So your violation is paint violations, pretty much. Because what they've never done in 75 years is encapsulate the connection. You've just, that's part of your requirement. Got it? Chicago, you know how often they want you to paint the fire escape? Every 3 years. How often do they? Never. Here's a standard document that the city of Boston, you guys asked me, is Boston doing this? Right? Here's what the city of Boston affidavit wants me to sign. And right in the middle of the page, it says, to the best of my information and knowledge, I believe these egress components are in conformity with the provisions of the Mass Building Code. So is that a escape parachute? For who? Right? So if all of a sudden you get one of these opinion affidavits, opinion letters from anybody, what's that? You still accept opinion letters?
Yes.
Yes. And then that's the start of the what process?
And
Of the long, lengthy process. And each process always ends in what? What do you pull out? Or you put it back because they've done what with you? They've treated you nicely. They said, no, I know what you're trying to get. You want me to really satisfy on all 4 codes other evidence of strength. And I want to know what you're doing about all the connections outside the building, but what's the primary one?
Inside the building.
Inside the building, which is a new 3/4 hole. So that might be, if we have time, that's the only thing I'll probably show you is the load testing of us moving sandbags around, but things shut off. But a 3/4 hole into any masonry building, we put an epoxy bolt into it, 8 to 12 inches deep, right? Or we drill all the way through the building and we put inside what? A plate. It's the same thing, right? A lot of times because of today's epoxy wars, we have to put in 2 epoxy bolts. In some rare cases, what we do to avoid the epoxy issue, because we don't want to destroy the inside of these buildings, we put a 3x3 angle or 4x4 angle running across the entire length of the platforms, and we put epoxy bolts every 3 feet, more or less, and then we mechanically tie back into the whole structure that way. So now if there's a failure, what has to be pulled away? The whole building, got it? So it's either individual epoxy, through bolting, all wood structures, full through bolting, okay? We're talking about how fire escapes have been built for 100 years, okay? So these are the things we'll cover in the future class, and that's why we'll be able to show you. Cantilevers are balanced. Ladders are balanced. There's locks on them, so you can't pull them down. And when you release a cantilever, guess what it does? It drops 2 to 3 feet per second, hits the ground, and stays down. It doesn't go back up. Okay? That's an out of balance cantilever. Okay? All fire escapes must be complete to grade. So any fire escape that I have a ladder that's 8 feet from the ground, guess what it's missing?
8 feet.
It's missing the 8 feet, which the code said back in the 40s, back in the 20s. It says you can complete the other 8 feet by doing what? A ladder or a cantilever. But people read that law and did what? They stopped at that sentence and said, hey, the law says 8 feet, so that's why you have 8 feet. Got it? So every fire escape that we look at that has a ladder that is 8 feet from the ground, it's pre-existing non-conforming. All roofs must have catwalks elevated off the roof. sitting on pressure treated sleepers, so that if I come out of the window here and the ladder's over there, I need a catwalk that's like cattle, just brings me right. I can't be thinking when I'm running out of a fire. All systems must be complete to grade. That's what we would cover. Cantilevers and tags. These tags are happening already in Seattle. They're happening in Portland. Okay? And what's the reason for the tags? What's the reason for the elevator tag? What's the reason for the sprinkler tag? What's the reason for something that says somebody did it sometimes at some point in time? We never know when these things have been done, so we're starting a tagging program. It'll take 3 to 5 years for us to identify every building. Residential, commercial, institutional. Why? Because it's part of their second means of egress. Let's talk about residential. Can we touch the single families? Right? They've got this bubble of whatever, but if they don't have 2 means of egress because you're there on some other unrelated reason, every structure must have a front door and a back door. Right? If it doesn't have, if it's an apartment complex, 2-family, 3-family, and it has a front door and a back door for the first floor, but there's only one stair for the second, one stair for the third, what's it missing? It's an unsafe structure. It's a dangerous building. Guess what it needs temporarily while you're waiting to get plans and drawings? Scaffolding. Are you kicking kids to the street? Right? With the scaffolding? Right? So you have answers. What you didn't have was alternatives before because you didn't realize. But you're going to be stepping into some areas that you've never stepped before because they're breaking the law. And the law says you need
2.
You need 2. By the way, single-family townhouses. I live in a 4-story townhouse. I got a front door and a back door, and then I have 1 stair going up all my 4 floors. Do I need a fire escape on my 2nd, 3rd, and 4th floor? No. Single family. So I have my front door, my back door, that's my 2 means of egress. The fact that I have stacked, I should have a fire escape, but it's not required by law. So don't confuse those 2. But then I've decided to move out of that 4-story building. I'm going to turn it into 4 apartments. Do I need a fire escape? Got it? Simple stuff. All right, let's see what else. Programs. When can you start? How do you start? It starts with just a conversation like this, where you now say, okay, it's on the radar, and we have to coordinate all our people. So, building is here, fire is here, so what is it? Let's take a look at all the checklists. Write these down, and we're going to create a checklist right now, and that's going to be pretty much the end. You guys ask any more questions, and if you have anybody that's going to go out with me, to go out, we're going to go.
Today?
There's an airplane that leaves at midnight.
Okay.
Should be back home, so.
So you have the afternoon?
Yeah, and I got to see Salt Lake, the actual Salt Lake, even though I've been here, but the last time we went cross-country with my parents, I was like, yay high, but that's all I have planned.
Okay, well, give us your checklist and then we'll talk about when we can get out and do a city walk.
Anytime you guys want to go. If I can get 1 or 2 guys to go out with me, fire and a building guy maybe, or otherwise, all I need is 1, because we'll record that guy now, and that's going to be used as training for anybody for the future, meaning all my other classes has downtown walkarounds, and it becomes the application of what we just did here. So, let's talk about the checklist right now for your side, fire prevention. You guys do smoke detector sign-offs. Guess what it needs as a checklist item only? A copy of the cert. That's it. Not an actual cert, just a copy of it. One doesn't exist. What's it trigger? A request for one. So we're just going to stay on fire right now. So with all sprinkler sign-offs, what do you want to throw on the back of a sprinkler sign-off by fire protection companies? What must they include? Cert. Alarm sign-offs. What must they include? Don't forget, some of these certs will last 5 years. Same cert. So if they have a cert today, guess what that company keeps? They keep a copy of that, because next year when they do it, guess what they're not going to go looking for? Because that cert is good for 5 years, guys. Got it? So it's not renew it. It's not do it again every 5. A copy of it.
We do a test every year.
No, a copy of the cert. The cert for the fire escape is 5 years.
Yeah.
So that you're going to be using a cert for 5 years' time. They do that yearly. So sprinklers, smokes,
detection notifications.
detection. Okay, something else that you guys do that's yearly on a building, commercial or residential.
Install a system.
Permit
alarm.
inspections and all kinds of stuff.
Okay, so even on a permit inspection, what do you need to close that permit?
Okay.
Got it? So we'll come back to fire now. Let's go to building. On that thing that they did with Boston, what they did to basically not change the SIP, make it a checklist item, they threw permit sign-offs to the end, meaning electric, plumbing, or roofing permit that you pulled, when you tried to close it, you now needed a copy of the cert. So they threw it on the back end as a sort of a knee-jerk reaction to getting embarrassed by that statement there, right? So here's what we have. We recommend that building now, as part of your requirement to get to do your permits, you need to pay your taxes, you need to have, there's all these things, plot plans must come. That's coming 3 to 5 years from now. Right now, you're gonna throw it into the back end. You're gonna say, to close any permit, I need a copy of a cert. If you don't stop the process. Close the permit, but then send to the fire prevention, listen, I had to close a permit, but it was an incomplete closure. And so you still file it and put it away, you're done. But the blank that came on the back end basically tells her 123 Main Street didn't close correctly.
That puts the onus on the building owner, does it not? And you've requested this
Oh,
document, and now you've documented that you've requested.
No, this is just him giving you some leads. He's not doing it, they don't want to work anymore for you guys, that's it. They got enough on their list. They want to drop names in a hat, you deal with it.
Right.
So he's just basically saying, to close a permit, he wants a certificate at the end. Because that certificate really belongs to you guys. If it doesn't, the fact that one is not coming, right, that, you need a yes version of that. All of a sudden, one didn't come, he still closes his permit. Yep, thank you very much, great job, see you later, goodbye. And all of a sudden, in 3 to 5 years, or 1 to 3 years, you're actually gonna bring the permit process to the front, and you're gonna do it all for building inspectors. For commercials and institutional. And you're gonna kind of leave it on the back end for the residential. If you want to do it already tomorrow, put everything on the front, go ahead. I'm just telling you how to ease into it, because now, where do you go in the city? You go in the city wherever people are spending money. So a lot of times, who you deal with is people spending money right away, not people not spending any money. They've been not doing anything in their building for 20 years, all of a sudden this thing came. Now, the city of Lowell put out a tax letter, so every 3 months you get a tax bill. Guess what the city of Lowell put out? They put out a general letter, which you'll get a copy of, and I think I already sent you the copy. It was called the Lowell letter. And what does it say? Hi, the city of, we're very cautious now, and we want to make sure, but they sent it to everybody in the tax bill, so everybody who had it or didn't have fire escape. If you have a fire escape on your building, our code is this, and we'd like in the next 30 days for you to submit. Now, what was that great tax letter? What was the reason for that tax letter? You put the notice.
Yeah.
And you didn't send it to just specific people.
Right.
Everybody got it. It was just a standard letter telling them to give you, if you don't have one already, please provide one and then leave it alone. And then something happened 6 months from now, I said, oh, we covered our tracks on that one. Once we found out how serious these 75-year-old structures were, we put out a notice, and the owners have not complied. So now we're enforcing this in these various ways. Now we're asking that because we notified everybody, now we're asking for it on all these checklist items that we have. So on your end, besides permits, what else do you do that requires activity in a building once a year? Do you do re-rentals or you do sales? Business licenses.
Business license.
So every business license, rooming houses, motels. You know how many motels have an exterior stair and those walkways on the outside? It's all exterior steel wooden stairs. Oh, by the way, that's another bomb. The code states all exterior steel or wooden stairs must be examined. It hasn't even mentioned fire escapes yet. All exterior steel or wooden stairs. So that means porches, decks, anything exposed to the weather is actually inspected. All exterior stairs. It says on the, I think the IFC says all exterior stairs. Steel wooden stairs. But basically, this is just the tip of the iceberg. You're going to start with fire escape. All your parking garages, you know how many parking garages here have all exterior stairs? People are falling through it and getting hurt.
We're looking at possibly amending that language to the city to include the ladders, because in IBC it allows
What ladder?
you actual ladders as opposed to stairs, because we moved away from obviously letting them replace the ladders if they're out of commission, then they have to replace them with the stairs, do they not?
No.
The only time ladders are allowed is that last land above grade in that position. But again, with ladders, it's only, can't be used for any more than.
It's like, go out there, we're taking on nice.
But what I'm getting at though is it says specifically the language is stairs, and we have components of our fire escapes that are ladders, so.
I think you're mixing two things. All fire escapes in the US started with ladders, then they moved to stairs. When we examine on the ISC 2012, we're examining stairs and ladders. When you're building new fire escapes, I can't build ladders. Unless I've existed all possibilities, then I, with special permission, I can do ladders, spirals, but otherwise, when I have all the room in the world, I have to build a traditional staircase that meets all codes. So when I get to a ladder right now, I am inspecting it under this code. So every ladder that I'm looking at is part of this code. Can I, and then, and I can replace fire escape systems indefinitely. So if I get that, and I got a wood structure with a wood ladder, I'll replace that with a metal one with a ladder also. Because I haven't changed anything. I'm just, you can replace things indefinitely, even if it's a different, better material. Okay, so none of this, oh, you touched the ladder, now it's got to be a stair. No. That's not the case. You can repair indefinitely. It's almost like when you guys upgrade a building. After they reach a certain threshold, then you guys force the new code upgrades on them. But if you maintain your fire protection system indefinitely and you haven't cracked some threshold, everything's fire escapes stay the same forever. Now, in some of your buildings you guys are looking at that they went from a commercial building, they went to a charter school, a daycare center, and all of a sudden now the 24-inch wide fire escape does not make it. Now the 24-inch staircase does not make it. They still keep the fire escape, now goes to 36, 42 rails, 7-11 staircases. So that's where you're going to get an upgrade, not pushing them back into the building, because that could be really cost.
It's a change of occupancy threshold.
So change of occupancies, now you have to look at the fire escape system again. So now it comes that, you know, this ladder is no longer sufficient. This ladder used to do for 10 people. You got 100 people here now. Or turn residential or whatever. You say, I want a stair, now it must conclude in the staircase. Oh, we have no room, we're over a sidewalk. Yeah, cantilevers stairs. You're going to have to put it up 12 to 14 feet in the air, and it's going to be a balanced staircase that comes down to the ground. And we're just going to get fatter. She's going to come out 6 to 7 feet wide. So there's no, don't forget, I have a master's degree in reverse stupidity.
Yeah.
It takes many years to accumulate that. So, and then you guys have, now I'm going to open it up to questions. Then you guys have the fact that this has to have a reoccurring class. Because the next people that are going to really get to you is the vendors and the architects and the engineers. They're going to start freaking you out. So right now, let's talk about who can do this work. Ready? So you know, it's a niche market. Not many people in the business. I'm the only fire escape company in the nation. Now, what's that mean? That means that because there was no money to be made in the bastard child of egress. But so let's say, for me not to be able to work in your city anymore, if I need my fire escape examined, what's the law say? Design professional or others acceptable. So does that make me the only guy in town? So how many architects and engineers within striking distance of this place? Okay. Now to repair the fire escape, welding guys and ornamental guys, they both have welding machines. Can they bring it to the job?
No.
No? Can they bring their other tools that change bolts?
Yes.
Good. 98.7% of all the fire escapes that are built in the United States are bolted connection fire escapes anyway. So guess what? They don't need the welding machine. Can they use the welding machine to create a new component on the ground and weld it and then attach it with bolts?
Yes.
Got it? Now, welds, I didn't cover this. Every welded fire escape in your city must be X-rayed or load tested. Okay?
So if there's no connectors, that actually has to be.
I gotta get there first.
Oh, sorry.
Every welded connection in your city must be X-rayed or load tested every 5 years. Or you drill a hole through it and you put a bolt in that connection so you keep your weld as long as it doesn't have any rust inside. And what have I eliminated in your eyes? The load test. So there's a few out there that somebody 10, 20, 30 years ago welded the crap out of everything, and as long as what they welded didn't have rust in it, because it has rust, I got to cut the weld, open it up, take everything out, go through the bolting process. Okay? But I have a perfectly pristine fire escape, 10 years old, galvanized. Guess what you have to do to it? Load test it, because it has welds, it needs to be X-rayed or load tested. Or you can tell the owner of that building on this pristine, beautiful, galvanized fire escape what to satisfy other evidence of strength, because there is an unknown, right? Because welds break from the outside in or the inside out?
Inside out.
Inside out. So how do you negate that immediately?
Reinforce it.
Now you'll put the card back in your pocket. So all welded fire escapes, there's only a few welded fire escapes new, guys. But there's a ton of old bolted fire escapes that somebody showed up with a welding machine. If they welded rust in there, they're gonna cut that open anyway. So don't think that you're gonna get there and there's gonna be a weld over or on a thing that has rust and there's a new bolt and you're good. It's not. If somebody has a welded, rusted connection with a new bolt in it, it still fails. If it passes, somebody didn't understand what was supposed to be happening there. No, you have to rebolt all good welds to avoid load testing. But every weld over rusted connection, you have to tear it open anyway and give me a new bolt. Got it? So these things will come.
Can we take questions?
Yeah.
I hate to land the plane on you here, but let's, because we've got a technical plan review meeting we've got to do, and I gotta get these guys out in the field.
Sure, open up the question.
So, does anybody have any questions about everything that we've reviewed? I mean, it's great information. I wish we'd have had more time to get into some of the details and reinforce some of this, but we'll definitely be bringing Cisco back and inviting more people to the table. We'll do it in the community rooms.
Or just have your association put something, so you invite all
The State Fire Marshals Association,
Yes.
I've already talked to Scott about it. I mean, us and Ogden and Orion, who else would you say in the state has a significant fire escape?
You know, nobody really has what.
I mean, nobody has what we have,
They do,
obviously.
But they have
you know, they have
some.
traveled quite a bit. They don't have it in the numbers, but you're gonna have a lot of small towns that have 4-story structures.
Right.
And so, I mean, you barely,
Yeah, it's
you
still
blink
good,
and you're gonna go
yeah.
through, but they have 4 fire escapes in that town.
Yeah.
So, and because this got recorded, it's good to, you just lead the charge, and you guys, by doing it here, they're gonna follow the leader and say, okay, so what do we do with these? Because they're always gonna call up the chain whenever they run into a small town that they have a few downtown buildings that have a few fire escapes on the backside. That's it.
Right.
But this is great information that's gonna go.
Right.
Don't
No,
forget-
I will definitely get the State Fire Marshals Association together, and we'll bring you in again. And but I mean, does anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Paul.
Oh, mine has to do with this particular project that started this fire, is that.
And we can go to that building, by the way, today.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And use that as the
Well,
example.
I need
We'll
to
use
call
that
the
as
guy,
the
had
model.
it- I'll need that guy, well, we can probably go from the outside and look at
Yeah.
it, but I'll call the building guy on that, but it,
Willingly or not, we're here.
yeah, we can, no matter what, go through it, that's for sure. The fire engineering who is being called to actually do this, can I give him this book?
Sure.
Okay, I want to make sure that's okay with you before I do that, because they want some guidelines to go by, and the only other thing I have is that, I guess Ted and Sean, Orion, Chief Ellis will need to come up with some guidelines that I'm gonna need, and mine or anybody else inspecting it's gonna need.
Well, it
from
sounds
Rapid
to me
Hawkins
like the
guys.
key is gonna be identifying either outside vendors or local vendors to be able to provide the level of service that's gonna be acceptable, that when they fill this out, we're actually gonna
Yeah.
consider it valid.
All
Exactly.
structural engineers will be able to fill out that.
Yeah,
one.
all
The minute we hand them this book, if an engineer, a structural engineer looks at this booklet and sees what we're gonna be following as a guideline, that's gonna let them know what they're gonna have to do, which is basically everything that you have
You know,
highlighted.
Paul, here's the deal, that, and the message I think everybody needs to be keenly aware of, is this is not, we are not gonna shoot, ready, aim. We have to make sure that, yeah, this stuff's gonna start jumping out at us now, right? It's gonna be falling off the buildings into our eyes going, and we're gonna maybe even get a little bit panicked because of the magnitude of what we're looking at. I think one of Cisco's key messages here is don't get ahead of yourself, because if you do, you're going to create such a political quagmire that it's just gonna distract from your effort. We're gonna have to be surgical about how we go about this, and it's gonna have to be very methodical and slower than our hearts and our minds are telling us we wanna go, but
Checklist items.
we have to take it in a very methodical fashion, because if we don't, the same thing that happened for residential sprinklers is gonna happen to us. Somebody's gonna scamper up to the hill, and we are gonna be completely shut down and our hands completely bound if we don't do this smart. Because, believe me, the whole political deal and the fact that the legislators now kind of hold our whole code adoption in the palm of their hands, it's gonna be our job to educate and bring this thing in and I know it's painful, believe me, dude. I want to run out and start sending letters.
And you want to use Philadelphia. The fire, they fell on the 12th and on the 27th of January. They were already in the lawsuit.
Yeah.
So the lawsuits happen immediately when there's death related to something. Well, what do you mean nobody's checking this stuff and nobody's doing this stuff? And so So that's why fire, building, housing, if you have a housing code
Yeah.
side of it that does Section 8 housing and stuff, it's all simple stuff. We already trained housing inspectors, and they want, in order for you to occupy and start collecting money from the government, you need that checklist.
And we can
Senior
start,
citizen homes,
Yeah.
same thing. They need to have a safe environment. So what's the safe environment? Do you have 2 means of egress? Are they certified? Checklist item.
so,
Just keep it checklist
right, and if
item.
I'm understanding you correctly, I mean, we can establish our form, we can get our certification form done, cutting and pasting, it sounds
Yeah.
like. And what we'll do is, like he's recommending, we're gonna start asking for that on the backside of everything that we're doing. And by doing that, we're immediately putting the onus on the building owner. We want this, we're requiring it, and then as we slowly start, and business, I mean, we're gonna be able to cover a pretty significant number of occupancies in the city just by looking at what we look at annually, right? Because I actually double checked the numbers, we did over 5,000 inspections, and Combat did another 30-something, so, I mean, it's a start. And then the letter that goes out with the taxation letter is a great idea, because it's passive, but it also allows us to.
No liability for you.
Exactly.
For the whole entire city, no liability.
Right, so those are the sorts of things that I'm gonna have to work on, and if we see something egregious and we need to shut one of these fire escapes down, we do it. And we do it just like we've been doing everything else, right? So it's gonna, and if we're gonna get to the position where we're like, your building doesn't have a second means of egress, you're gonna have to come up with an alternative. I think he's provided a pretty reasonable means to at least creatively give them an option to bridge a gap. But if it doesn't meet and satisfy the code and providing that secondary means of egress, we have an obligation, obviously, to address it immediately. But what I don't want to do is come out of the chutes with this big, massive, upfront, on top, aggressive approach to this, where we're going to end up pooping and falling back.
You know, tag buildings?
Well, I would be a short-lived person. Well, yes, go ahead. They find me another job, probably like pushing a broom. I've seen it
Tagline is
happen.
dangerous buildings now.
Yeah, right, no, but that's the point though. If the building is dangerous, absolutely, we have an obligation to act upon that. There's no doubt about it.
But you said on the way, you have folks in the city that
I'm not talking
email
about that.
if there's any
I
buildings.
know, I'm not
Special
news.
Let's go back, every building you see right now.
We've got.
Yeah, oh, dude, I know, believe me, I know. There's plenty of work to be done, there's no doubt. Does anybody have any other questions for Cisco?
And I need a couple of volunteers that want to go out and hang out.
You know what, we need to do a technical plan review meeting, but this afternoon, I would love to go. And is anybody available 1:30-ish? Anybody want to go 1:30-ish? Paul, what do you have? Are you pipes on your plate today?
Well, I do, I got pipes, high rises, and a meeting at the state capitol, but I might be around 1:30. I have to see, I haven't had a chance to call some of these guys, right?
Why don't we plan on just meeting back here around 1:30, 1:45? And if you can come, great. Does that work for you? Okay, so meet back here around 1:30, 1:45, and then we'll just spend an hour or two, maybe more.
We can go to that building, start at that building. Is there a concentration of fire escapes in that building area?
Well, there are some right there. In fact, the guy for fire engineering looked over and said, the building next door's fire escape is worse. So, and I didn't look at that
If you
one.
can give him a call and tell him we'd like to go there and get physically on the fire escapes,
Okay.
that'll help. Because
I'll
even
call
though he's
him.
getting an engineer report, if I can be there with you, get some photos on my end, we can have a comparative report of what I saw and what you're about to get, and use that as part of the case study.
Well, that's the guy I would like to give this to, because he doesn't know where to start.
No, you need the Doug, right?
Come on, Paul.
Paul.
No, the guy at the building, isn't it Doug?
But yeah, Doug's the guy at the
Yeah.
building, and,
Doug doesn't need that.
no, the guy who's trying to hire.
Yeah,
to
the
do it.
guy he's trying to hire,
Yeah, that's what I'm talking, Dustin.
Okay.
Dustin wants a guideline, because he's trying to do what we're asking right now.
Right, so maybe you can
Because Doug
call
called you.
Dustin to meet us down there, Doug to be there, you to be there, he'd be, and we'll start there, a little class, and then we all leave and start walking around, because we're not gonna get on any more fire escapes. The only ones we get on is that one. Everything else is from the city, from the street level.
Okay, can we make it a little, I have to be at the state capitol too. for a meeting with Highway Patrol. And,
Yeah, there's no way.
well, maybe I could be there for the start of this. And
Let
then I
me,
can
let me
take
ask
off.
you this, what's going on at the state capitol with the access and everything, is that something that?
Well, that's, we're trying to nail down all the communication with Highway Patrol, Salt Lake City PD, and our
Could
combat
Gene
crews.
handle that?
I don't see why not.
Do you mind? Because
No.
I have a vested interest in you getting proficient in this.
Okay.
And I think if Gene's gonna be at that state capitol meeting, I think that would be more than enough representation.
And we also have Glenn Hollern,
Yeah,
our
no,
communication guy going.
we're well covered at that meeting, if you don't mind, I would
Well,
love
I'll
it
come.
if you join us. Okay, good, thank you.
Perfect.
I'll come, Chief.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
So now let's take a look at what happened here. This is a great one. Look at this.
That's their staircase right here. See that staircase right there? The enclosure?
Right?
That's what we need to
Okay, we'll go take a look at it. On that one,
do. Yeah,
what's this thing?
that's the same building.
Why they need two?
I don't think they had another one inside. I think there was
So maybe they can already remove that second one if that's the case. Unless it's two separate wings. We'll take a look at it in a second. But here's a great example. First of all, because of break-ins, they locked it up. So now can people get out of this building without having a key?
Nope.
Number two, it got hit by a truck. So they put this barrier here for the trash trucks. Got it? Now look what happened here. So they repaired this hit, which should have been covered by the insurance company, with expansion bolts.
Right.
Because look at the through bolt there,
Right.
with a plate inside. But look over here.
Oh, it's missing.
Come over here and look at this way.
Two of them are missing.
The two of them are missing. So instead of repairing it correctly, they band-aided it. Definite damage, blocked ladder. It's chained up there, so you can't release the ladder. Okay, so this is typical in alleyways. Very typical in alleyways. So now this thing's been compromised.
Oh, God, no.
They just redid that whole building.
I'll bet you $1 to a dollar. But let's take a look at this one. What's the issue here? More paint than rust or more rust than paint? Is the ladder complete to ground? So these people have to jump 16 to 20 feet to the ground, right? So now, looking up the standpipe's been cut. Firemen can't get out. They put this in without anybody. This is ACs, obviously, for the summertime. And it was in their way, so what did they do? They stopped it. They shut down the means of egress.
Why this fishy landing?
Hey, that's true.
Yeah.
Got it?
That's your tough luck.
So, tenants at risk, firemen at risk right now because they can't perform their duties, fight the fire, and they can't get up there unless they bring a ladder. And if the people get out of this building, they're trapped. Is this a firefighter or fire rescue?
Fire rescue.
So this becomes a dangerous building with life safety concerns.
Yeah.
Fire Escape Academy Inspector Training video. Okay, so see the pigeon poo. Look at that huge amount of pigeon poo there, right? That's health department, correct? Issues. But now, with that being said, more paint than rust or more rust than paint?
More rust than paint.
Okay, so you have your first violation. Now, rivets or square head bolts. So if it's rivets, it's 75 to 100. If it's square bolts, it's 50 to 75. But if you see any rivets, it means it's older than 75
Well,
years
how can
old.
you tell the backside?
Look at the rounds. Look at the rounds. Those are called rivets.
Okay, I didn't know.
See next to it, square head bolts. Okay. So now look at all the gussets and the blowouts. Look at all the bulges everywhere, telling you what's happening behind those bulges.
That's what they used to look like in the, that's probably solid for grass.
Oh,
Got it?
you know it is.
All right. So now you have this. You're only looking at one, right? You already know the general condition. So now and before they used to come through that hole. They used to continue down, right? So they've stopped. So now you land on a roof. So what do you got to do?
Well, you can even see that it probably came to this
Came to here.
Right
It
here.
came down. They took it all away.
Yeah.
They blocked this up over here. So is that a life safety issue for anybody in that building?
It is.
But there's
Okay.
absolutely no way to get out on this.
But there's no way for firemen to get in either.
Right.
Okay.
Our fire department connection blocked to us.
So where's the standpipe? You have a standpipe there? Yeah.
That's
So
it,
your
look at it.
so your
Well, come on in.
standpipe. So now it's a life safety. It's an OSHA issue for your firemen. I know you guys are not covered by OSHA, correct?
Right.
So, but to get to that standpipe, and that standpipe has not been what's the word I'm looking for? Inspected, right? So now they've also blocked this access down into the basement, right?
Right?
You have this metal structure here, which is a bridge. It's more paint than rust, or more rust than paint.
Rust and paint.
Got it? So this needs third-party inspection
Right.
to give you an evaluation and a plan. See, everything's an evaluation and a plan, not fix it right away. An evaluation and a plan, and you don't have a way of getting out of this building. So what do they have to come up with this design professional? What are they just going to basically do? They're going to come back and correct what was obviously a vendor, a builder who just basically boxed it up and said, if nobody cares and nobody's watching, but they definitely got to complete here and come down to the ground, or come here, go over, you know, hide issue, or come down and come over here and come down.
I'm wondering what this is.
What?
This structure right here.
I don't know, that's an aftermarket.
I know, but I'm wondering if that.
I think it connects into this building.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if it's some other means of egress that comes down and empties out.
No, it's
to
not.
this door.
I think it ties into the other building. Or it's just an extension of a bathroom or something.
Witnesses say it sounded like an incredible explosion when the fire escape of a Philadelphia apartment building suddenly collapsed and injured 3 people.
NBC 10 cameras were there as a friend holds on to one of the victim's hands, who is apparently conscious as the victim is placed into an ambulance by medics.
KYW-TV reports a man who was critically injured and 2 women were rushed to local hospitals.
Police believe the bolts of the fire escape appear to have been rusted and dislodged from the brick wall of the apartment building.
The victims fell more than 30 feet to the ground, and now the incident is under investigation. Worth noting, the complex is more than 100 years old and even on Philadelphia's historic registry. Local reporters are all pointing out the city's licenses and inspections department hasn't filed any violations in the past when it comes to the old building, so Sunday's collapse came without warning. Neighbors say the 3 victims, reportedly all in their 20s, may have been partying on the fire escape landing before the incident. For News
Fire Escape Academy. Here we are, starting to do a parking garage. So here we are in a parking garage. What do you see?
Sheltered, rust.
Rust getting in. Cement does what?
Spaulding.
Absorbs water like
Right.
a sponge, feeds water to the iron, and it gets in there. So these should be sealed. And a lot of times after you lay your cement, you should put that rubber, that non-slip rubber that doesn't burn. Because as you're going up now to this all welded construction, what's happening on some of these treads?
There's some water coming through and causing some rust.
All those rusty tiers up there, what's that telling you?
We got water.
Who's going to tell you? Who's going to tell you whether this meets the IFC 2012? Who's going to sign up?
Professional.
Structural engineer or others acceptable to you? What's going on here? And look straight up now. Look at all the rust coming down on you.
Yep.
We're not walking up anymore because even though this is a 10-year structure, probably the most 10-year-old structure, because they're not doing their job, and they basically, here's the job that needs to be done here. I now just cannot seal that and rebolt that.
No.
I have to cut the welds, remove the angle, clean it underneath, spot prime it, silicone shut it, rebolt it back because I can't weld it back into position.
That's amazing.
Okay? And this is only 10 years old. So you got some structures out here that are 50, 75, 100 years old, and this has been working on it all this time. But it's still a 10-year-old structure.
Or I think it's a little old.
Could be?
I think it's unsafe. You're probably right. No.
Got it? So we're good. So this is parking structures. These are very commonly not properly maintained, and this is one of the reasons.
A little extra care when they were.
A little extra care, preventative maintenance, and she's going to last a lot more years.
Right.
But we have some case studies where people actually fell through, like these guys going up.
Right.
They fell through 3 stories. So they fell here. They basically collapsed the remaining steps, and this woman fell 3 stories down in Richmond, Virginia.
Jeez.
Got it?
That's not too good.
Fire Escape Academy Inspector Summary Video. So here we are. We're looking at this. We're here in Salt Lake City, Utah. So let's take a look at this one. You're never going to get on these anymore. But is there evidence that there used to be some ladder or system that used to come out of that hole to where?
Well, it should have been to grade.
Right. So what happened? Who took it away?
Who knows?
It doesn't matter. But Ken, these people are going to get all trapped. So the 20, 30, 50 people that when they finally come to the end, who's going to fall through here or jump through here in case there is a fire? And they're going to bounce on this and then fall here. But with that, let's say, so it's missing its ladder. So it could be, it's a pre-existing non-conforming. Is it a life safety issue, or is this a special building or a dangerous building? The fact that now nobody can self-evacuate without help.
I'd say it's a dangerous building at this point.
So now let's look up.
Got life safety issues.
Just from the ground, right? Is there cement missing on the wall?
Appears to be.
Okay, so you can see that cement has not been dealt with. Okay, now looking up at the staircases, which are fairly new, they brought those in. Those are newer stairs, probably 25 years old, because the old ones are gone.
Or better.
Right, so they're all welded. You see any bolts?
Nope.
All welded.
All welded.
What do you need in order to pass today?
Have to bolt them or to do a load test on it.
Or X-ray, right? X-ray load test. Otherwise, you rebolt it with some clips. You're good to go. Okay. Let's take a look at the railing system. Old, part of the historical register. So those can get refurbished. But how are they tied into the building? And
that's a good question.
You know, what do you? They look like they're professionally or installed or tied into the building as per standard.
I see some plates or some bolted type bolts. So look above this window right here.
Yeah.
It appears to be an old square bolt. Can't really tell for
Just
sure.
all kinds of crazy things on this fire escape here. So and the supports. Look at the supports towards the ends. You know, there's a bolt on the end of this support here, but if you go over to that support near the hole, do you see the bolt is missing?
There's something missing there.
Right. You see any new hardware anywhere on this fire escape?
Not at all.
Not at all. So they haven't. There's no evidence of maintenance. There's evidence of some painting, but now there's no painting because it's been non-painted for at least 25 years, and because of that, they've exposed every connection, making every connection suspect. Who can inspect this for you?
A professional.
Right, design professional, meaning a qualified engineer, could be a qualified architect, or somebody in the fire protection industry, or somebody what's called others acceptable to the building official, which could be a fire escape engineer, could be a fire escape inspector, could be anybody that basically proves, otherwise your catch-all guy is going to be the structural engineer guy, pretty much on a lot of these things, right? So let's take a look at this one over here.
Pretty much.
Same structure, but why? Where's the staircase? What happened here?
Yes, that's that old ladder one.
Well, it's the same guy that built it. That railing and that railing is the same railing. This one had stairs, and that one has a ladder. But why? It's not. Who knows? Let's take a look. So it's the issue: pre-existing non-conforming. If they have ladders, they get to keep ladders. You can't force an upgrade. But now, how did they get down? And by the way, you can go down a lot here. So there's remnants that something was here. Yes. And what did they do? Did they continue to the ground, or they just ignore the issue?
It looks like they have cut the ladder.
Cut the ladder away.
Or so whatever they had.
And there's a different kind of ladder. You can have a slide ladder that comes down.
Correct.
So they can put a hole here with Velcro, and the ladder can come down. There's also what's called a fold-out ladder. It looks like a drain pipe. It's going to come through. It's going to land about here, and it folds out 18 inches this way. Still, to a certain degree, a safe situation. Or you can close that hole and make the exit ladder on to the left of that, and you come down.
Right.
Okay. So, but right now, looking at that, it's missing its ladder, so it now became a dangerous building with life safety concerns because people cannot self-evacuate. You've stopped them from self-evacuating without assistance. So it must be single action requiring no special knowledge. This is not single action.
No.
Needs assistance. Now let's look at just the rest of the structure. Any original hardware or any evidence of any maintenance?
Looks like old bolts.
Old square head bolts.
Square head nuts on the bolts.
Right. How about the cement? Any cement spalling issues that you see where there's no cement around?
Yes.
The steel going into the building?
You just see the steel in a gap.
Yeah.
So I don't know how far and where it's fastened to.
Has it been kept painted? Must be structurally sound. Must be kept painted. Has this one been kept painted?
Nope.
So right there is the origination of a violation.
Correct.
Who's gonna tell you what's structurally wrong with this?
Again, a professional.
Third party, right?
Yep.
Structural engineer, registered to the architect, or others acceptable to the building official or fire official? And do you need to know all the way up?
What's that?
Do you need to know all the way up? Do you need to find any more, or can you find? Does this tell you everything about the rest of them?
It looks like it's pretty indicative of the whole.
Now getting to the guys that are important. The firemen going up through that hole. Do you think it's safe for them to go up through that hole?
You know what? No.
All right. So now, as an option, it's not required by law. Would you recommend during the upgrade of this building to meet OSHA requirements,
Cage around it.
to put a cage around it as a recommendation to satisfy you and a code requirement upgrade, which you're not allowed to do and enforce? You can strongly suggest.
Right.
But does OSHA allow anything over 25 feet today to be utilized by anybody without a cage around it?
I don't think so.
Right. So you can, not only this ladder here, but this ladder over there has the same issue. So during upgrades or during refurbishment of fire escapes, certain things can be addressed to make it not necessarily 100% compliant with today's code, but if the owner could do anything to make it safer and better for the tenants and the firemen, it would be greatly appreciated. Okay, any questions? Fire escape engineers, inspect the summary video, 86, and this is, we're here in Salt Lake City.
A startling scene in downtown Colorado Springs Wednesday after a man falls to his death.
I was just walking up the street to get to the bus stop, and the cops were right there, told me I couldn't come this way.
Police say the victim and several others were working on the roof of this privately owned building when the man fell.
He may have fallen a distance of anywhere from 15 to 20 feet is what's being investigated right now.
Tragically, the man died on scene. It's believed he fell from the fire escape and not the roof or a window, although how it happened is still unknown.
That's what's being investigated right now to determine the actual cause of the accident itself.
Right now, police say the death is not criminal and is being called an industrial accident.
There were several witnesses, individuals who were working with the deceased party, and so we've interviewed them as witnesses in this investigation.
It's really sad. I feel bad for his family. I mean, I don't know him, but prayers and best wishes to his family for sure.
Others in the area expressing similar concerns and well wishes, visibly distraught by the day's events.
I mean, I can't even imagine it, just coming out to do your job one day and just fall off a building. Like, it's really sad.
Fire Escape Academy inspector training video. Here we are. Let's look out. So square head bolts means it's 50 to 75. Rivets means it's 75 to 100. So what's the approximate age of this structure?
Oh, it's certainly over 75 years old.
Because it's got rivets, okay.
Rivets.
Must be structurally sound, must be kept painted, so it's starting to show that it's probably due for a paint job sometime soon. Let's look at the through bolt. Is she through bolted into the building to your...
That appears to be the case,
yeah,
right
so
there,
that,
old square head.
So that comes in into the building here, and where's the plate? Can you see the plate?
Not here.
Okay, so who has to verify that for you?
That'd be a
the
structural
third party,
engineer.
and a lot of times they can open this up and then re-sheetrock it, but they need to verify that in 5 years. Or what can they do if they don't want to disturb this interior, and you want them to not load test this, so they can leave the original? What other options do they have?
That's a good question. Let me.
I want to duplicate it.
Update the hardware.
Yeah, so that hardware. The hardware is all external, so yes, all the major structural rivets need to be popped out, and you need new fasteners. That'll take care of your railings, your platforms, and everything, right? Okay. But then this through bolt, to not have to load test this platform, I want to keep my original through bolt, but I don't want to disturb the inside. What can I put next to that one? Keep the original. What do I put next to that we taught in class?
Well, let's see, it was another
through
angle
bolt.
or through bolt.
Another through bolt, epoxy or through bolt.
Right.
So if you can put another epoxy bolt here.
I'd feel better with a through bolt.
Right, but then they're going to disturb. So let's say, you say, I'd be better with a through bolt. So then the structural engineer would come in here, open this up with a 12 by 12, prove to you that the plate in here was great and that the bolt out there was great. He's basically certified it by verifying the connection. Got it? So let's take a look back out here. Do you see any separation? Look at that one over there, the bottom bracket, how it goes in.
Yeah, that one looks pretty good. Just starting to show a little bit.
Yeah, what about the other side? Trying to get this one.
Hard to tell.
Okay, well what about that one over there?
This one here.
See the crack?
Starting to show some separation.
Right, meaning water has gotten in there.
Water.
If you had sealed that, you wouldn't have this issue.
No.
That connection on the corner there, Is that showing that water's working its way into that connection?
We got some, just a little bit there, but
yeah.
It's hard to tell from right here.
But who's going to tell you anyway?
Third
party inspection. See that connection right in the corner of that? 2 rivets. Aside from replacing the rivets, you know what else I can do if I have the room? I can put a bolt in the middle of those 2. Seal the joint, put a brand new bolt there of equal strength, and I keep my original rivets.
So
every now and then you don't have to replace.
Right.
If you can reinforce and back it up with another, you're at 200%. So
like here, you're not going to change those.
No, these are called minors.
Right.
So if I was doing this grading, I would have to change that rivet over there.
Right.
But not these slats.
Slats are fine.
Slats, that's called minor structural. Right. But that front one I have to change, and the one, and then tell me about the cement in this wall.
Ooh, we got cement, the mortar that's separated.
See if you can stick your finger in there, or stick a key.
Let's see what we got.
See, oh, you can put your fingers.
Go way in there.
So that's what's holding this into the building.
Yeah.
What about the other side?
Same
thing, right?
Yep.
So it's pretty easy to basically look. So is this corrosion starting to get into that corner?
Yes, there is, just a little.
All right, so a lot of times, and if I want to, I can leave everything the way it is, fix only that spot repair, but what are you gonna order if the guy only spot repairs and does a little bit of the cement work here? What are you gonna order?
Load test.
Load test, how many years?
5 years.
Every 5 years as per the IFC 2012. Correct. Now, if he refurbishes this old flats and systems with all new fasteners, how often are you not gonna load test this? How many years is he gonna put it off for? 15 to 25 years.
15 to 25.
As long as he keeps maintaining it and keeps painting it, and every one of these joints should be sealed with 35 to 50 year silicone. Right?
That's it.
All right, so I don't think we need to look anymore.
We have a good feel.
You got a good feel for what, and they've been maintaining this pretty much, right?
Yeah.
Now it's from here that you look around to see, is there any other fire escapes hiding in these nooks and crannies in this other building? Do you see any?
I do not.
Do not, see? So that's it. This is the only fire escape structure on here.
Pretty interesting.
There you go.
But right now, firefighters are taking down the ladders and rolling up the hoses. But earlier in the night, when they pulled up, there were flames coming out of the side of the building. Firefighters say it was one of the scarier moments, because when you pull up to a building and you see children and mothers hanging off the side of the fire escape, smoke swirling around them, they said that's scary, scary stuff. They got up there, they got the ladders up, and they said nobody got hurt.
The fire escape, there was 3 or 4 people hanging off the fire escape. They couldn't get off. They were just on the fire escapes. I had people hanging in the fire escapes at the rear of the building, and on this side of the building, we had a bunch of people on that fire escape.
About 50 people were displaced inside this building. However, firefighters say there's good news tonight. It looks like everybody will be allowed to go back in, except the one unit where the fire was in. They said that's good luck to them tonight. I'm Bob Wilson, on the scene of Bridgeport, News 8.
Fire Escape Academy inspector training. So, gentlemen, we're here in Atlantic City. We're doing some training. This is called. We would normally do this after training class. We go out and look at things. So we're here, and you just learned. All you need is must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. So, step 1 before you even think about getting on it, has it been kept painted? No. Okay. The class you taught, or you're going to get taught, says that all connections rush from the inside out. So this fire escape only got to this point because the connections were not taken care of. So, do you need to see connection problems in order to write this a violation at this time? So all you need is no paint means it doesn't meet the code. It must be maintained at all times. That's your fire code. So since it's not maintained, you are now asking for a third-party investigation to verify what you think is going to be true and that the connections are just as bad or fatal. The second thing when you're doing this examination, because all you need is 2 to 3 minutes and you're out of here, because you're writing a maintenance violation right now under 1028.6. So you're about to leave, but you need one more thing to check the dangerous building code. And that is, do you have anything dangling, anything bent that would make this a dangerous situation while it's getting repaired for the firefighters or the building tenants? Okay, so any dangling or bent supports. Start from the bottom and work your way. Any bent supports anywhere?
Yes.
All right. So does that make this platform safe or not? And is the platform already dipping because of it? So you got a dangling, you got a bent support here. Now you're going to start looking at the connections where the staircase comes down. Is there any connections that are failing holding the staircase in position? Like if you look straight up here.
Yes.
So is that staircase safe for egress?
No.
Okay. Now you're going to look for dangling treads. you see any dangling treads or such huge corrosion that a tread is ready to fall anyway, and it's just they're dangerous? Do you see any dangling treads?
I do not.
Okay, so looking back up at the rest of the fire escape, do you see evidence of rusty tears indicating that water's getting in and it basically it's pissing out, showing you that there's
a lot of corrosion right
so a lot of times by them putting this vinyl on that you
like
can't verify. So now look at these connections that hold the thing into the building. Any of these suspect?
Sure.
Okay. See all the rust in that corner?
Yep.
So, and that connection is holding up the entire staircase. Okay. So now you've basically got what you need on this fire escape, and that is that the fire escape is has not been painted. So definitely the connections are suspect. That's the word. You're looking for a dangerous building or a life safety concerns. You've seen some, and that is that this is bent. So this platform is in a state of collapse. The staircase is not being properly supported, so it could further drop. No dangling treads, but this fire escape is suspect, right? Yeah. Now, wood structures. You're looking at a wood structure, must be kept painted, must be structurally sound. Has this been kept painted?
No.
Well, normally more paint than rust or more rust than paint?
Well, wood doesn't rust.
Well, I'm sorry, rot or peeling paint. More paint than...
More paint, yes.
Now,
So,
how about a pressure treated?
right, we'll
we'll
get into that, because right now you're just concerned about, is this a safe structure? It's all exterior steel wooden stairs. So if this is going to be used like a fire escape, this has to be examined and load tested. So now you can come in here a little bit, and you never want to get on them, and you sort of want to get underneath them. Do you see any cracked wood?
Definitely that one.
Okay, and you see any short wood, meaning trip hazard? Here it's missing some pieces. So you've seen enough to basically say, okay, this needs to be examined. Okay, now whenever you can, you get underneath. And you look underneath here, and you try to see the construction mode. Are any of the steel, the galvanized pieces, the wood, the nails, is anything look like it's expanding? Right?
Yeah.
And it's all going to be done by third party guys, not by you. So do you have enough evidence on this one that it needs some repair? And it should be stained and sealed, right? And load tested. A lot of times we never load test wood. The only thing we do with wood is we reinforce it with steel. And a lot of times we give them another 5 years before they can replace it, depending on how old it is. Okay? So with that being the case, just quick look on this one. More paint than rust or more rust than paint on this one?
It needs to be painted.
It needs to be painted. So do you have enough for the maintenance to write a maintenance violation? That maintenance violation automatically triggers on the 1028.6 a need to have it examined by a third party. Do you see any expansion? Do you see any areas of concern? Do you see any joints that are missing gussets or steel, or that the wood has popped? And this is just from another yard.
Right.
And so the fact that it hasn't been maintained by paint means that certain metal connections are and nails are what?
Rusting.
Are rusting in there. So who's going to tell you that? A third party person, not you. So must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. So here you are doing a job here, and you wrote these violations. All of a sudden you just need this address to send him what? A violation under 1028.6 to have his structure examined by a third party. And the only thing you got him on was not properly maintaining it.
Right.
Got it? All right, let's walk across the street. You never get on them. And here we are in Atlantic City. This is called inspector training. Okay? Must be structurally sound, must be kept painted, and this ladder's so low. What tends to happen to these low ladders? They get hit by trucks. Okay? So they must be up. So, before you get closer, must be structurally sound, must be kept painted. So what's one of the things you're not going to write them up on this one?
Paint.
Right? Because it's got more paint than rust. It can have a little bit of rust.
Got a little rust.
You know what I'm saying? If it's 50-50, they're going to lose. But if it's 75-25, that means they can use a spot paint job. Then you can't write a spot violation, you know, a rust. But now let's look at things. First of all, let's look for stuff, right? One, is this ladder straight or bent?
It's bent this way.
Bent. So look at it. Come this way.
Bent.
It's bent. So meaning what?
Oh yeah. Now you can
now look straight up.
Yeah.
Now use your eagle eyes, guys. Straight up. You see any rotten material, any holes in the steel structure?
Yes, a lot.
Okay, so is this fire escape structurally sound?
No.
Do you know enough, or do you need a third-party examination?
Third
Now look in that corner up there. Look at where the things go into the building. Is the cement? Is it cemented into the building in all three, or is all three full of holes? No cement on this bottom platform. Straight ahead.
That's definitely got a hole in the
right,
middle.
but look at this one. Look at this one.
It's missing.
It's missing the cement. It's missing cement and missing cement. So what's that mean for the first platform that takes everybody, including your firemen?
Right. It's not
Life safety or dangerous building?
dangerous building.
Okay. So you guys need to have a dangerous building division. Now let's take a look at the treads. Look straight up at the treads, because now you're looking for any dangling treads. Any rust in any of them? Any dangling treads? Okay. Who's gonna?
You can see rust on it.
Right. You can see rust in the connections. All right. Now let's look up to the other platform up there. Do you see anything mysterious up there? And it gets hard. It gets hard as it goes up. So will you need?
To get a close look,
But do you need to go all the way to the top floor? You already have a painted structure with a bent ladder and cement missing out of the first platform. What more do you need? You want to get on it? You want to go open the door and let's crawl out the second floor and peekaboo and carry these?
Don't have to.
Right? This is third-party tools.
Right.
You guys will never need to get on the fire escape. And now let's take a look at original hardware or new hardware. So is it square head bolts you see or hex head bolts? Square. So these are 50 to 75-year-old bolts. You're gonna take an opinion on them or you want a load test? All right, so if I came in here and I was watching a vendor and he took out all those bolts and removed all the rust on the treads, and then the connection at the very top of the string and at the very bottom of the string you put in all new, do I need to load test this staircase for you? If I put in all brand new fasteners, remove all 100% of the rust, or have I given you other evidence of strength?
I would say yes. Load
Okay,
test.
I come in and I see that connections into the wall. I'm gonna cement shut all of those. I'm gonna put a hole next to it, 6 inches away, and I'm gonna put a new epoxy bolt into the building. I don't care about these originals. And I'm gonna bury the new epoxy bolt 8 to 12 inches deep into the wall. And I'm gonna reconnect it back to these fasteners. So you're gonna get brand new master connections. These are gonna be the slaves, right? Do you want me to load test the platforms now?
Yeah.
Well, I just gave you new connections. Why would you? If I change all the fasteners on the platform.
I don't know, but I want to load test.
But if I give you new, see, the question is, depending on the structural condition, a load test may be ordered. So I have an either or with your department. If I refurbish it in its entirety, there is no load test. That's the national norm.
Okay.
So so back to the question, I change all the fasteners on this platform, and I drill a new epoxy bolt into every support. I fix the old ones going in to make sure that they're closed so nothing's getting back into those. So now I'm at 200% into the building, 100% new fasteners, no square head bolts left on this structure. Do I need to load test the platform?
No.
Perfect. Now let's talk about this ladder.
I got a quick question for you.
Go ahead.
Now, that new connection there.
Yeah, there's
Did you say that's epoxied in, or you have no way to know that?
Okay, and what's it, Patrick?
Pat.
Hey, Pat, look at this one. Quick one. This is a very good question. He says they've already done that, Cisco. Looks like they put new epoxy bolts there. I need to on the
See that platform? The angles are
there's angles.
in?
Yes, I see that.
Those look to me like expansion bolts, not epoxy bolts. And as soon as we open it up, we'll know. We'll see immediately.
And they're not legal on a fire escape.
Never can have an expansion bolt into a structure. Okay. So the last piece, we do this all the way to the end. Now let's get over here, and the only thing left, we straighten out this ladder. Right. The ladder gets unbent, goes back higher so no trucks hit it. And see all that cable, that old scraggly cable? I put a new cable on there for you. I take that pinwheel up there, which is made of cast, it's just now brittle, and I give you a new cable, a new pinwheel up there, new. And then the tie back into the building, I epoxy it back into the building or do whatever. Do you want me, and then I put a chain release on this so that nobody can pull it down and break into the building. It's called a release arm on the ladder. And when you release the ladder in the future, it falls by itself 2 to 3 feet per second, or you assist it very lightly and she comes down and stays down. Do I need to load test this ladder?
No.
So if you refurbish the ladder on the 1028.6 and refurbish the stairs and the platform, there is no load test. If I change all the bolts on this fire escape, re-epoxy it back into the building, change the cables and sort of refurbish it 100%, I don't have to load test this for the next 15 to 25 years because that's the life of a bolt. 25 years from now, can you order a new load test?
Yes.
Or I can do what with this fire escape?
Refurbish.
Change all the bolts again. change the cable again.
But can we order a load test if we come back?
Oh,
10
if you're a
years,
mean guy
we come
and-
back 10 years from now,
And they
didn't
haven't
do any
painted.
maintenance on it, they didn't paint it, and we start to see rust, and we can order a load test. Right?
You can order a load test if you're just mean.
Okay.
If you don't like the guy and you're like, yeah, great job of refurbishing, spending thousands of dollars. I didn't have my Wheaties this morning. I want a load test. The answer is yes.
So I was mean when I ordered a load test.
Yes, you were being mean, but you can be. So guys, never get on. So is this a life safety or a dangerous building?
Dangerous building.
And look at some of the bolts that hold the ladder. And there's some little minor welds on the side. If somebody grabs this ladder,
and they welded it instead.
right, and it's popping. So this is that thing. If some guy tries to use this ladder, can it fall away? And if that cable snaps without weight, is that weight controlled in any way without falling on your head?
No.
Got it? So great piece, great class. This is Fire Escape Academy.
That ladder, or would you just? They would have to put a new ladder.
These ladders are great. Look, the ladder pops through and it's welded, right, on the outside. So these are they're fail-proof. They can't fail because they pop through. So the ladder can be reused. If it's just welded and a butt weld,
As it is, you could straighten that.
oh, you can straighten. Put that on the ground. We'll straighten it right up. Okay. All right, guys.
The smoke, the flames, and the frightened faces. All in a firefighter's line of duty. But Chief William Hitchcock remembers the night it wasn't the fire that almost stopped him,
Oh, I was scared to death.
but the fire escape that broke underneath him.
Where the railing just came away from the building.
And our investigation found across Massachusetts more unsafe fire escapes. Rusty, deteriorating, crumbling, broken. And what state officials didn't know, the system they set up to keep fire escapes safe is also falling apart.
The potential ramifications are disastrous.
So let's look at this one. This expert ironworker is licensed to build, maintain, and inspect fire escapes. So then over here? For months, we examined dozens of them with alarming results.
Looking at this today, would this pass inspection?
No.
In dormitories, at theaters, at homes, and apartment buildings.
Rust is actually eating away the metal of the
Correct.
fire escape.
Correct.
And the bottom line?
It'll get weak and then eventually it'll fall.
This one has rotted connections. This one missing bolts, twisted metal.
Would the stairs come down?
No, never come down.
This one a broken tread.
So how dangerous is it for the people inside this building?
This fire escape is definitely going to put somebody either in the hospital or it's going to put somebody in a cemetery.
Fire escapes are so critical. The state building code requires they be certified for structural adequacy and safety every 5 years. But our investigation found that safeguard is simply being ignored. Here's proof. We chose fire escapes at random in Boston, Somerville, Cambridge, Worcester, and here in Quincy. We checked building department files,
But there's no fire escape certification.
Not in this file.
to see if building owners had submitted their mandatory inspection reports.
There's no certification in this one either.
Right.
Bottom line, not one we checked in Quincy had been certified as safe. And the director of inspectional services admitted because of staffing shortages, the city has no idea how many other fire escape owners are breaking the rules.
And as a result, do you know how many fire escapes in your city are safe or not?
Well, I don't know.
In Worcester, not one we checked was certified. In Somerville,
No.
4 more fire escapes,
Did it fall through the cracks? Yeah.
not one up-to-date certification. And again, no system for keeping track.
How can they get away with that?
I guess that the shortest answer of all is because we don't have the resources to sit here and follow up on these things.
If structural deficiencies are reported, local building inspectors can actually evacuate residents until repairs are made.
Would you talk to us on camera about this? No?
But when we surveyed 24 more communities, most admitted they had no idea how many fire escapes were certified. In Taunton, inspectors told us they haven't seen a certification in 25 years. Northampton officials said it's a cold day in hell when that happens. In Cambridge, too, not one of our test buildings was certified, and the official in charge would not come out to discuss it. In Boston, where there are more than 8,000 fire escapes, again, according to inspectional services, not one we checked was certified. Officials know they are required to enforce the building code, but they admit they don't always know if owners are breaking the law.
The building code is being ignored.
Right, but it's difficult to write a violation when you don't have knowledge of something like that.
But state officials say for a critical issue like this, communities should know. And they warn the Massachusetts building code is not optional.
Does it worry you that these fire escapes are not being certified?
This is an important issue and should not be ignored.
That's because after the smoke and flames begin, it'll be too late to learn you've got no way out.
I can't stress it enough, Hank, that these things have to be maintained and someone's got to be watching.
As a result of our investigation, state officials will now issue an alert to local inspectors. Meanwhile, if there's a fire escape on your home or office, you can contact your local building department to make sure it's properly certified. In the newsroom, I'm Hank Philippi Ryan.